Hey everyone, welcome back to 996. The Howl. The Utah Mammoth are currently in a bit of a rut, only winning 2 games in their past 8 games played. So let's talk about something more positive in their prospects. And a lot of their prospects already in this short start to this season, putting up some video game numbers. So let's just jump right into it. Iginla in the Western Hockey League in Canada, 11 goals in 8 games played. He's fully recovered from a double hip surgery that occurred last year. 17 points in 8 games played. He wears the alternate captain A patch for his team, the Kelowna Rockets. Then we go to recently drafted big defenseman Zanichka, 6'5", 187 pounds, 9 points in 16 games played. Last year, he only had 7 points in 24 games played. And then VT Vasanen, third round pick defenseman, a half point per game pace, 9 points in 18 games played. Then we go to the Ontario Hockey League in Canada. Beaudoin, drafted in the first round alongside Iginla, centerman, one of our good and hopefully great center prospects. 31 points already in 17 games played, including 10 goals. It seems like Beaudoin is having an offensive breakout year. He's usually just a point, he's usually a point per game prospect, but this season he's off to a hot start, eclipsing that point per game pace, and he wears the C. He's a captain for his team, the Barrie Colts. Great to see that from Beaudoin. Whenever I see him in the prospect tournaments or training camp preseason games with Utah, I want some more offensive flair, skill, and it's great that already to start the season he's having a great offensive year. Then we go to the Quebec League, first round pick Desnoyers. He's recovering from double wrist surgery, and so he's only played 6 games, and he's got 4 points in 6 games. He's going to get it rolling sooner or later. Just want him to be fully healthy for the season. His teammate Gabe Smith in Moncton, fourth round pick, another huge big centerman. He's almost getting a point per game, 13 points in 14 games played. Last year, he had 39 points in 52 games played, so he's already eclipsing that point pace compared to last season. And Lavoie, defenseman, drafted in the 3rd round, 7 points in 12 games played. He's a captain for his team in Quebec as well, and he's 6'4", 220 pounds. You got some big boy defensemen in Lavoie, Zanichka, and Skahan, who's also 6'4", 220 pounds. So we'll go to the NCAA in America, and the number 1 goalie prospect for the Utah Mammoth, Michael Hurabal. He's from Czechia nationality, 2.68 goals against average and 911 save percentage. He's 6 wins, 3 losses on the season. Last year, he had an incredible, excellent, elite year, having a 2.37 goals against average and a 924 save percentage. So he's slightly below, but that standard from last year was insane. Hopefully this is his last year in the NCAA before moving over to the Tucson Roadrunners. Will Skahan, he's got donuts on the board, no points in 11 games played. I've been burned twice on concentrating on, defenseman prospects getting a lot of points in their junior leagues. Jeremy Langlois in Quebec a couple years ago, Bill Armstrong and the organization decided not to sign him coming out of junior. And recently, Justin Kipke, who had a great year in the Western Hockey League, they also decided not to sign him, even though his offensive production was really good for the Western Hockey League. So maybe this time, he was a top 10 prospect on my list in the summer. He still is, sort of. Whenever there was blurbs written about him last season, the scouting staff for Utah just loved what he brought to the table. So maybe because he plays in the NCAA, even though he has 0 points, maybe he's a great defender and great defensive player. So maybe they'll decide to sign him out of that, junior years in the NCAA. Then we go to Jonathan Castagna. A bit of an underwhelming season last year. He's around a half point per game player, and he's continuing that pace with 3 points in only 6 games played. Tanner Ludka, he was injured last year along with Iginla, only played 8 games and got 2 points. So at least this year he's already up to 9 games played, eclipsing last year. He's healthy. He's on a new team, the University of Minnesota, and he's got 4 points in 9 games played. Ludvig Loftin plays in the USHL, the United States Hockey League, coming over from Sweden. He's got 14 assists in 16 games played. He's sort of taking that same route that Julian Lutz took. Lutz went from Germany to the USHL and then to the Roadrunners. So it seems like Lofton's going to take that similar route of Europe, Sweden to USHL to the Roadrunners hopefully next season. Then we go to the Russian leagues, the KHL teammates Moroz and Borokov for the Dynamo Minsk. It feels great to have another 2 Russian teammates on the same team. Hopefully they have the same success as Simishev and Boot did, winning the cup last season. And it's the first prospect video where Simishev and Boot aren't on the board. So we're moving on, we're moving quickly. It's great to see these prospects graduate from the prospect board to the NHL, to the AHL. I'll have the Tucson Roadrunner report up probably within the week, and we could talk about Daniel Boot there. But Moroz, Borokov playing on the same team. Moroz, maybe a little slight dip in his offensive production, but Borokov 12 points in 19 games played. And another goaltender prospect just recently drafted, Ivan the goalie, never going to pronounce that name. He plays in the minor league in Russia, currently 8-5 with some pretty poor average goaltending numbers there. Then we go to Europe, still in Europe, in Sweden, Gregor Byber, 19 years old, playing in the SHL. That is just the thing that jumps out of the page when you read about Gregor Byber. He was also playing in the SHL, the highest Swedish league, which is a really hard league, at 18 years old. So he's continuing to play there. He's a defensive prospect, so that means to me he's responsible defensively, which is why he's a young player, which is rare to play in the SHL. We got Melker Thelin also playing his first year in the SHL, graduating from the minor leagues in Sweden. Video game numbers here, but it's a small sample size, only playing 6 games, but unbelievable numbers. 1.59 goals against average and a .934 save percentage. Maybe we see him in the World Juniors for Team Sweden on Boxing Day in December. And then Rasmus Korhonen, a longtime prospect in the organization, drafted in 2021. And him and Cal Thomas are like the longest tenured prospects with the organization. No idea what's going on with them. They're not moving over to North America. Even though Korhonen had like a 4-game appearance with the Roadrunners like 3 or 4 years ago, he's yet to come over, but he's having a pretty okay season in Sweden. Then we go to Czechia, Wojtek Hradic. He had a great World Junior tournament last year. Maybe we see him again for Team Czechia. Alice Czech, defenseman, 3 points in 17 games played. Last year he had 2 points in 32 games played, so you'd love to see that, already eclipsing last year's numbers in almost half the games. And Stepan Hosh, a recently drafted 3rd-round winger, 2 points in 17 games played. Then we go to Finland and Switzerland. Samu Bao plays in the highest league in Finland, 6 points in 23 games played. Last year he had 10 points in 40 games played, so love to see that. Alenko plays in the minor leagues in Sweden, recently drafted. And Ludvig Johnson, our first Switzerland prospect since I've been a fan of this team. The only other prospect that came close was J.J. Moser. He was drafted from Switzerland, but he immediately went to the American Hockey League and was immediately promoted to the NHL with the Arizona Coyotes. So now I gotta get used to and familiar with the Switzerland leagues. And it's great that a 6th-round pick defenseman is playing in the highest league in Switzerland. I believe they call it the NL, the National League in Switzerland. So great for Ludvig Loftin. I got some unlisted prospects here. Zelinka, Matthew Morton, Cal Thomas play in the NCAA. Their stats are pretty poor. And Carson Musser is a goaltender prospect, also in the NCAA. Just nothing just to write about for these players. And Fedotov, 2nd-round pick, plays in the KHL, was picked before Josh Stone, picked before Matthew Nyes. Honestly, it was a pretty poor pick in that draft year for the second round. Should come with a high pedigree, but he's just been bouncing around in the KHL team after team. He's yet to really just solidify himself and make a case for coming over to North America. But you know, they have these Russian players, KHL, Europe, they have their rights for a really long time compared to Canadian Hockey League contracts and NCAA contracts. So Fedotov can stay there, and maybe like some other Russian players in the NHL, like Panarin came over late, Kaprizov came over late. I'm not comparing him to those players, but sometimes they might be 26, 27 years old and still come to North America. So he's just on the board. He's there, but in the unlisted column. Hopefully all these players continue their great pacings and have great years for their junior teams, and then we could start seeing them graduate to the Tucson Roadrunners starting next season. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.